Okay, very distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to welcome each and every one of you to the UK LCC interview. This is put together by the Communications and External Affairs Department of the UK-Liberia Chamber of Commerce in London. Our guest today is an experienced general manager with more than 10 years of managerial experience across Europe and Africa, an adaptive leader focused on delivering measurable results while building strong teams with positive organizational cultures. He leads the general management of Liberia for Lufthansa Group. This is Brussels Airlines for passengers, Lufthansa Cargo for freight, including commercial teams, security, ground operations teams, finance, and human resources. Lufthansa is a German airline. When combined with its subsidiaries, it's the second largest airline in Europe in terms of passenger carriers. I am deeply honored, ladies and gentlemen, to present you my guest for today, who happens to be the country manager, Lufthansa Group Monrovia, Liberia, Mr. William Racine. A very good morning or good afternoon to you, William. It's great to have you on the program.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the invitation. It's an honor for me also to participate.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So very quickly, I'd just like to find out from you, what is the investment climate for the aviation sector like? How badly has Liberia been hit by the COVID-19 pandemic so far?
I mean, it's difficult to say. It's of course it has been impacted. The situation here has been I would say managed in a way that there was some vaccine coming in the country. So we saw that there was some vaccination coming. Also, the test has been running in. National Institute of Health has been running a lot of tests to enable the travel. So I would say COVID, of course, COVID has been a big hit. I need to remind you that the airport was closed from the 18th of March 2020 to the 28th of June 2020. So for more than 3 months and a half, there was no movement of airport. For Lufthansa Group, we were able to manage some repatriation flight, one in April, one in May. But of course, the country was in a state where it was, I think, like every other country, every other market, where nobody knew too much about COVID, and everything stopped, I would say, rather than in the same time. Since last summer, we were able to restart progressively. Lufthansa Group has been the first airlines through Brussels Airlines to restart in Liberia. So we've been able to accommodate passengers from end of June with a high level of safety and security in terms of health and sanitary in the aircraft. So today we are still in a restart mode. So it's where we are now. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. So the next question I'd like to ask you is, as an experienced general manager with more than 10 years of managerial experience in Europe and Africa in the aviation industry, in addition to your current portfolio as the current manager of Lufthansa Group, one of Liberia's foremost contributors to the aviation industry in the country, could you kindly share with us your perspective when it comes to the significance of West Africa and Liberia for the AFCFTA? You know, a lot of people have said that Liberia is in a central position where other countries around the Mano region, for instance, Senegal, Sierra Leone, Ivory Coast, can access other countries around Africa through Liberia. So how significant is the positioning of Liberia in respect to the aviation sector when it has to deal with AFCFTA?
So I have to say that the situation of Liberia aviation sector improved a lot over the last years. Indeed, there is an ongoing change at the top management of Roberts International Airport with the replacement of the Bishop Clay. And we are waiting to know who will lead the international airport of the country. But since the opening in August 2019 of a new terminal, this has been a real game changer for Liberian passenger and for the aviation sector in Liberia. With a brand new check-in counter, with a queue system. The queue for people who are not working in aviation, it's a common use terminal equipment, making all airlines able to use the same equipment to check in their passenger. Automatic bag belt and new bridges. So the passenger journey over the last, I would say, 3 years really changed in Liberia. Now it's fairly important to keep the quality of the service of the infrastructure and to keep engaged staff to make sure that it's a high level of service. Today we have an excellent relationship with the chairman of the board of the airport, Mr. Musa Shannon, who shows a great leadership and improves his willing of improving the airport. So I do think that Liberia has all the cards in the hand to have a strong position on the area. And especially with, the single sky, we are in talk for a lot of time now. Liberia signed the Treaty of the Single Act Sky. With a strong investment in the coming, I would say, years, Liberia will have an important role to play in that area.
So the next question I'd like to ask you is, for now, when you're looking at the priority needs of airlines all around the world, whether you're talking about Nigeria, every airline has their priority needs. Pre-COVID, post-COVID. So for Liberia, the aviation sector, the airport service companies, what exactly does the aviation sector in Liberia need at the moment when you're looking at Lufthansa, who happens to be like at the forefront? Are there priority sector needs for the industry? Are there particular things that the industry needs to pull through when you're looking at Liberia in respect to West Africa?
To answer your question, I think I'd like to quote my CEO, Carsten Spohr, who said that at the moment we are at an inflection point brought about the onset of COVID-19. The airline industry is facing a massive disruption, and those impacts will be severe and long-lasting. So while the previous 12 months are focused on pandemic response and contingency planning, it is not necessary for the industry's future to plan a future which consumer habit will change. Saying that, the priority for aviation operator in Liberia is to keep the highest standards in terms of flight safety and security by providing an excellent services and to work closely with all partners to ensure the need of changing habit of passengers is fulfilled. Meaning that to be sure that the Minister of Health is communicating well with Minister of Foreign Affairs, with Minister of Transport, that's really important to me. In a more than ever moving international environment, communication between industry professionals is key to ensure the best restart of our business.
If I got you clearly, Mr. Versin, what you're saying in essence is there's a need for collaboration between different sectors, be it financial institutions, be it the government, be it the members who operate the aviation industry and all for the good of Liberia and for the Manu region. If I got you clearly, that's what you meant, right? Okay, I'll now move in very quickly into my next question. So if you're looking at the airline rules and regulations, so to speak, of 200 airlines the EU had blacklisted in 2016, over 50% of them were African airlines. Some airlines from Nigeria were also on the list. Now, the pandemic's aviation effect, while felt worldwide, a lot of pundits have said have been sharpest in Africa. Africa has been badly hit. So nearly 5 million of the continent's 7 million aviation and tourism industry related jobs have been lost in 2020. Now, in addition to this, as much as 15 billion in revenue has been lost in the past 2 years, owing to COVID-19 pandemic. Half of these are from African airlines. So African airlines have been hit the most. If you're looking at other airlines in the world, because of course, we go for aid to a reasonable extent. When you're comparing us to airlines in Europe and in North America, we are like at the bottom of the food chain. So following this development, Mr. William Racine, as the country manager for Lufthansa in Liberia, what are your recommendations and solutions moving forward?
It is true that the pandemic situation has created an extreme challenging sector, and this will last for the next years, not only in Africa, but all over the world. But it highlighted the fact that the industry was already changing, and Lufthansa Group hopes to steer the airlines through that change. I think Liberia has a fantastic opportunity from a geographic perspective to become a West African hub. and to attract investment or talents to build the nation of tomorrow, definitely. My recommendation, I would say, could go in three points. Where first, I would say to digitize. We need to have like a more digitization process. For example, today in Europe, you see like the certificate, the travel certificate, where you can show that you have been double vaccinated, so you are vaccinated, or you can load all your PCR tests in your mobile. I think that's important that we push for this to continue and to develop them. Second, for Liberia, I think it's something important to focus also on the visa. Today, for people who want to come to Liberia, they need to have a visa. And I think it's something quite difficult for passengers who don't know the country, that they have to enroll themselves. It's quite a long process. So to ease the immigration process and to support the immigration authority, I do think that a visa on arrival where passengers are registering themselves online before they come to Liberia, they can pay online. Like that, there will be no issue and tracking system, and for the visa, and like that, they get their visa delivered on arrival. It's what happened in Ivory Coast. It's what happened in Accra, in Ghana, and I do think that's a major step forward for Liberia. And my third point, I think, being here for like now 3 years, the airport is like 60 kilometers from town, and it's a one-way single road. All the international intercontinental flight are in the night or to offer a best connecting time from Europe to the US or to Asia. I do think that it will be important for Liberia to have a great paved road to the airport, a double line where it will be safer and more sustainable for passengers to reach the airport on time at night. So a road which is lighted and where people they can have a safer way to reach the airport. That's my three recommendation for.
Okay, the next question I want to ask you is for the recommendations you've given, you've spoken about the fact that a lot of people who want to access Liberia from out of West Africa would have to obtain a visa, and that makes the process very cumbersome because when you go to visit countries like Ghana, you don't need to physically access a visa, you can do all of that online. So this all boils down to policy. As a country manager of one of the biggest airlines in Europe, who have been resident in Liberia since 2018, how would you possibly advise the government in terms of policies to attract investors into the sector? What I mean by investors is, if you look at a country like Nigeria, for instance, Nigeria is doing quite a lot in the logistics, infrastructure, and aviation sector. But this is all enabled with foreign aids from China and so many other countries, international institutions, donor agencies, to name a few. So for Liberia, what kinds of policies would you like to advise the government to put in place? Maybe in the short term duration of 5 years, mid-term duration of 15 years, long-term duration of 20 years. What would you like to see for the aviation sector from the government in terms of policy?
So if I looked from my own perspective, from an aviation professional, the aviation provides the only rapid worldwide transportation network, which makes it essential for global business. It generates economic growth, creates jobs, and facilitates international trade and tourism. I think it's important to keep a best-in-class aviation infrastructure in Liberia. When potential investors come to Liberia, they will judge from the beginning, from the airport arrival, and it gives already an idea of how the country works or runs. As I hear often, the airport is the first showroom of a country. If you arrive and it's a burden when you arrive and there is like no organization and of course it doesn't give like a bright side for a potential investor. The runway has been completed in 2018. There was a new terminal built in opened in 2019. I think it's now vital to maintain those infrastructure and to invest sustainably to allow more traffic in and out the country. The mobility of person and goods is key for a country to create wealth. And Liberia has many opportunities to offer. Later this year, there will be a new cargo terminal facilities at the Roberts International Airport. And this is bringing a lot of hopes to improve the export of for the country and to increase the trade with international marketplace. Liberia has a lot of commodities. I mean, if you look at the coastal, there's plenty of fish. And when you look at the neighbor country where Senegal is exporting fish, Liberia should be able to export fish to Europe, to Asia, to America. There are also some vegetable and fruit. Liberia produce cocoa and a really niche, like high premium cocoa, I mean, for chocolate. So there is also a different business niche here where the country should really look at. The Ministry of Agriculture through Madam Cooper is really looking at tackle this challenge and to make sure that the country is able to export products from Liberia.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rasin. I just want to confirm that you can still hear me. Can you still hear me clearly? I know my audio.
I still can hear you.
Okay.
I think we have in and out, so I hear you, but maybe with a bit of delay, but it's fine. I can hear you.
Okay, that's fine. Okay, so the next question I would like to ask you is, when you're analyzing the market situation for the aviation industry in Liberia, in the past 2 years, for the while you've been working in Liberia, how has patronage been like? What has patronage been like? So I give you a typical example. For people in the UK, we get a lot of questions for people who are willing to invest in Liberia. Questions like, what sectors could we possibly invest in Liberia? If we need to come into Liberia, how do we do business? But the point is, for anybody who wants to invest in any country, the first port of call is your airport. People begin to analyze the people in the country, the situation of the country, the economic, realities of this country, the dynamics and the, other indices from when they arrive at the airport. So for Liberia, I just want to know, what's the traveling situation like? Do you have a lot of people traveling into Liberia and people traveling out? Could you give us a matrix of that?
Yeah, I mean, I can't comment on the last 2 years. I mean, it has been such a massive a crisis for our industry that I can't comment on those like 2020, 21. But the fact that I was here in 2018 and 2019, I saw there was like increasing traveler volumes. And the natural traffic from Liberia and outside is much more like with the link with the US. So a lot of Liberian American coming in and out the country. But you saw that there was an increase also in terms of traveler from Europe. I came in Liberia first in 2012, and I remember that I was boarding the aircraft from Europe, and it was mostly Liberian who came, who was flying with me. And at that time, in 2012, it was mostly American Liberian. But now you can really feel that it's like a mix. You see like different people coming from Europe, and so there is like an attractivity of the country. I still think that the country needs to like improve its attractability. So of course there is some different lever to do that, leverage. But there was a recent call from the president George Mane Weah about investment, and he repeated like early July that he is open for direct investment from abroad. There will still some course, maybe um, some policies to implement to make the country more attractive, but at the moment is on track to like make sure that the country is attracting the best talent, the best company, best business, and it's a commitment from the government, I think, to make it.
Okay, fantastic. I'll just ask you two last questions before we call it a day on the interview. So the second to the final question I want to ask you is, when you look at countries in the Middle East, for instance, you look at the Dubai, you look at other countries in Asia like Thailand and the rest of them, the taxes are very fair. The tax routine, the tax regime, the tax laws and regulations are very lenient. But when you come over to countries around sub-Saharan Africa, a lot of investors, a lot of authorities in the aviation sector have complained that they have had to deal with highly exorbitant taxes. So for a country like Liberia, if we were to attract investment, as a professional, what would be your what would be your perspective, maybe your recommendation on the government and taxes in the aviation sector?
Yeah, I mean, when you compare to Dubai, UAE, or Thailand, of course, but every market is different. And I think I would like to also quote my line manager saying that for the restart of the aviation in Africa, every country will restart at its pace. You can't say, oh, okay, all the continent will go in one time. I mean, you have different infrastructure in different countries. The system is different per countries, so it won't be a restart, a common restart. So at a pace. For Liberia, we can say that we have been maintaining our flight from last summer to now, and we are continuing to propose 5 flights a week to Brussels. It's something that it's really important for us to keep it. I can't really comment on like taxes because it's really inappropriate to the government and to make sure that they have the best tax in place. But I know that they are looking to making some I would say some change, and they are always looking for the best situation for the country. So yes, I'm just hopeful that what they are doing now will bring more investor on the table.
Okay, fantastic. The other question I would like to ask you very quickly is infrastructure. So when you look at the connectivity, logistics, for West Africa, we were just about to begin the program when when the power went out. We have to deal with a lot of these connectivity issues around West Africa, and not just West Africa, around Sub-Saharan Africa. And then for the aviation sector, there's lots of logistical issues, and there's lots of infrastructure deficits. So now I am well aware that the World Bank in the past had invested, not certain about the exact amount of money in Liberia for the aviation sector. Now, are you optimistic that would have, more financial institutions, more collaborations and donor agencies, more collaborations rather from donor agencies internationally, partnerships, people building on concessions in Liberia for the aviation sector? Are you optimistic about seeing this in the next coming years, probably post-pandemic?
Yeah, when you say post-pandemic, once again, it will take time. At the moment, Liberia really made some good secured, I would say, some finance from World Bank, from IMF. Being French, I know that now the government is really trying to get some close ties also with the French government, and Liberia is now on the list of the country to bring some development aid. So yes, it's bringing some hope. You see investors coming in and out of the country. You see finance experts, investment companies. So I would lie if I say that I'm not optimistic, because you really feel that the country is changing. From our office perspective, I mean, I've been in Monrovia for 3 years, and you see that the city is moving. You have people coming in and out, but everyone is bringing, I would say, expertise or hard work to make the country moving on the right way.
So I just want to know from you very quickly, what is your view on aircraft leasing? I know that so many countries around Sub-Saharan Africa practice aircraft leasing just to minimize costs for passengers, and so many people who are affiliated to them. So for the airlines in Liberia, like Lufthansa and the rest of them, do they practice aircraft leasing? Is it something you could advise for airlines in Liberia, including your airline?
Yeah, of course. I mean, airlines are leasing their aircraft. It's not something new. But what is important is also to have like an excellent lease contract, which was, like I would say, the biggest hint during the COVID crisis. It's like when all the airports were closed all over the world, people were struggling because they had the lease contract, so they were supposed to still pay for an aircraft to stay on the ground. And we all know as airline professionals that yes, of course, aircraft leasing is really interesting, and it's a common practice in the sector. You have different lease, wet lease or dry lease, with or without a crew. It depends of the company. It depends of the financial capacity. It depends of so many different factors that I wouldn't be in the best seat to tell you which one is better, because every situation is different. If you want to do like a long haul, short haul, medium haul, which what is the need? What is the need? Yeah, are do you want to fly from which country? So it's difficult to say. I just like aircraft lease is a common practice. Lufthansa Group is of course doing it, like a lot of different airlines also in all over the world. Yes.
I just want to find out from you if people were to invest in Liberia as a professional, a seasoned, aviation professional who has lived in Liberia for so many years, how would you possibly speak to an investor to come to Liberia? Why should investors in the UK put their money in Liberia? Why should investors all around the world, other countries in sub-Saharan Africa, why should they invest in Liberia from your perspective?
I mean, because Liberia is such a market with I would say some opportunities. So where you see all the African map, you feel that yeah, Liberia is a market we is promising, and that's why as an investor you need to look at the country, what is the policies, what is the ambition of the country, and I would say that Liberia has all the key, from a geopolitics, from an economy which is now rebuilding itself. So it's an opportunities grass, I would say. So an investor should look at it like that, saying that it's a market who is just asking to grow, and that's why it's a market that needs to be looked at twice. Yeah.
May I ask, is Lufthansa open to partnership with organizations and platforms in the UK? What I mean by that is, for instance, if we're having like a trade and investment global summit in Liberia, the UK-Liberia Chamber of Commerce is coming up with an event in September, but it's going to be virtual. But I do foresee in the future, like maybe from 2022, that the organization will be having more physical events in Liberia where we'd have investors coming from UK and from across other countries in Europe. Is Lufthansa Airlines in particular open to partnerships? I know that with so many other countries and so many other airlines, sometimes they could give discounts to flight passengers who are coming in from a certain region. I just want to know how it works with Lufthansa, and if there are possibilities that the airline company could consider that from 2022. I just want to know that, please.
Yes, of course. I mean, we are looking to partners with organization. We also have like different partners here locally, but it's something that we definitely can look at, and to partners with organization willing to come to the country, and to make sure that they can develop and bring people on the table to discuss the future of the nation. So of course, yes, it's a definitely yes.
No question. I would just say this will be the very last question. So a lot of people are usually very skeptical about security in West Africa, but I always tell them it is overrated. There's no country in the world that is, all the way secure. Although some countries have advanced in security a lot more than some other countries in sub-Saharan Africa. But for Liberia, the security situation, what is it like? Like traveling on land, traveling by air, going to the airport, is the insecurity situation in Liberia overrated? Is Liberia fairly a safe country for investment? Could you expatiate on that from your perspective, being on ground in Liberia?
Yeah, and from my point of view, I mean, I've been living in this country for more than 3 years with my fiancée, and honestly, it's something that I'm not afraid to drive. And it's you need to be careful, but like any other country, you can be in Europe and you can have like some violent situation happen, but you are not in a risky countries. You need to keep your, I would say, level of vigilance, but compared to like maybe some neighbor countries. I mean, I feel safe in Liberia. I have to admit that I feel safe in Monrovia. I'm not going to place that I know I have nothing to do, especially at night. I'm not bringing any valuables if I know that I'm not in a part of the city or countries that I don't know much. But otherwise, if you respect your normal degree of vigilance, yes, it's a safe country.
Very, very many thanks, Mr. William Racine. Your final word to the UK Liberia Chamber of Commerce. Like I did tell you, we are the only organization in the UK who are responsible for bilateral trade services and investments between UK and Liberia. And what the chamber stands to see and what the chamber represents is investments. We're looking to see how we could possibly get investors from UK and across Europe to Liberia, how we can basically partner with Liberian companies, Liberian platforms, Liberian businesses to promote their services in the UK. So from your perspective, we're putting this platform together where we get to interview CEOs in Liberia, we get to interview international businesses in Liberia. I know you haven't worked closely with UK Liberia Chamber of Commerce, but what's your perspective about us from the little engagement with me? I'm the Director of Communications and External Affairs. So what would you say your experience and your perception about the platform is? Could you just highlight that in 1 minute?
Yes, I mean, is it true that here, from the UK perspective, I know that there is an embassy, and you have a few, I would say, British organization doing some work in education, in mining. So you have few, but I'm sure that UK Liberia Chamber of Commerce can definitely bring more people on board. But yeah, you see some British doing some works here in Liberia, and I'm pretty sure that the UK Liberian Chamber is aiming to have like more people on board to support the country development.
Thank you very kindly. Thank you so much for your time, Mr. William Racine. And I must sincerely apologize again for the technical hitches you experienced while we started the
No
program.
worries.
Thank you for your patience. I sincerely do appreciate it. On behalf of the executive directors of the chamber, the advisors, myself, and the chairman, I would like to thank you very kindly once again, the country manager of Lufthansa Group in Liberia, Mr. Racine Williams, for coming on the program. UK-LCC interview. Have a very beautiful day, and we'll keep you abreast with all the platforms this interview will be published on. Thank you so much once again, and bye for now. Bye.
Thank you very much. Bye
Bye.
bye.
Bye.